The only thing I did, which was actually quite valuable, was, there was a period when I was trying to raise the money, and that was the hardest. Honestly, that was probably, for me personally, not everyone, was the hardest part of this whole process, was trying to raise that $100,000 because it was so hard for me to ask for money. Didn't ask for things when I was a kid. We just knew that we didn't have the means, so you didn't ask. And so it was a barrier for me. But I was talking about it all the time, hoping people would say, oh, I want to invest in that. I would hope that I could tempt them to voluntarily. So I get all this all the time. You need to talk to my friend who did this restaurant or that. And there was a French restaurant here and not far from Pasadena called Café Beaujolais. And I went over there and they said, my friend said, you have to meet the owner. And he laughed. The first thing he laughed is like, I had a restaurant in Paris. I'll never do that again. Ha ha ha. Okay. Foreboding, a little foreboding. But speaking of vacations, he had started his restaurant. I think it was his 3 years in. He was finally ready to take a month off in August and go back to France. And so he said, come on over and just work with my staff, just see how the whole thing goes. It really was a crash course. And it helped because the entire staff was French. So I was speaking French. That was the French way of things are done, the way you talk to each other, what's your priorities, the service, right? All these things. But that was pretty much a crash course. Then when I got to France, I got a summer job again through a contact in a French restaurant that used to have 1 star, Michelin star. So pretty nice restaurant. And that was another way to crash course. And that one brought another level to the whole thing because I got to see more of the numbers and the deliveries and all the logistics of a restaurant in France. So that helped immensely. But it was not a lot. The rest of it, I had to just learn as I went along, go with my instincts and different skill sets that I had developed over the years. That helped.
Staying on the raising money part, how did that work? You didn't have the money to do it yourself, so you had this dream, you needed to raise some capital to then make this happen for you. It was hard because you weren't used to asking for things. But were the people that did, I know you had all sorts of like mixed people from $1,000 to like, I remember in the book, maybe like $20,000, $10,000 from a couple people. Did the people that invested in you invest because it was you, or did they invest because they were confident that you'd be able to have like a profitable enterprise, or maybe a mix of both? I guess my point is that if you were like a restaurateur already and you were asking for money, I bet that's an easier conversation to have, to like provide me with the capital to open up my next successful venture. Yes. But like you haven't been in the business and you want to jump into this feet first and do that with other people's money. What were some of maybe those conversations like, or how did that process go?
And don't forget, I'm taking that money and leaving the country.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So thanks for your money. See, I'm going off to France. But I did it in a way that, reassured them. I opened an LLC here in the States, so they knew that I couldn't run off with their money. But it's interesting you should ask that. It was a mix of everything. For the most part, I thought going in that everyone just believed in this idea and thought it was wonderful, which I'd say about half did. But afterwards, when people started getting their dividends and saw the restaurant really working, they said, I have to be honest, I wanted to support you in this dream, but I really thought, goodbye my 5,000 or 10,000. I want Craig to get his shot at this, but I never expected to see my money get, And I do remember consulting with certain business students and other people, and they said that it is important for this kind of investment for people to know, they call it like, the angel investor or doing out of act of love kind of investment, that they know that there's a big risk. And so I think no one had any problem realizing what a risk it was, that for sure. But interestingly, I just saw some of my French friends who invested, and they believed in the idea right away. And they even said it again. They said, we really felt the time was right for this kind of thing. We love your passion. And we just thought you were just going to do a great job. But I was surprised the number that didn't tell me till later that they did it just out of friendship and support. But don't knock that out when you're trying for your dream. That's any way you can get it.
Yeah.
And I had to raise it for the loan. I wanted to mention that too. The money wasn't enough. Then I had to get the bank loan from France. That was just the seed money required. Yeah.
How much did it take in 2003 to get this off the ground? What was that like initial nut of money?
Yeah, it was June of 2001. I opened the LLC to start collecting money. And I think I got originally I was hoping for 2 angel investors of 50,000 each. And my price kept coming down and coming down and coming down. But I settled at 5 for a while. And I think I got 2 or 3 investors for 5. And then September 11th happened. So that threw things off for a while. And then all through 2002, it took. So it's a year and a half to raise the money. Then about 2 to 3 months of many rejections, one after the other, to get the bank loan. And then
How much
we
was the
were
loan
it
from the bank?
was about 150,000.
Okay.
So 100 raised and 150,000 in loan.
And the exchange rate was favorable to you in 2003
Thank
when
you.
you
Yeah.
started this,
It was
right?
the rare time it was 89 cents to the euro. So it was unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned this a bit earlier, but how old were you, if you don't mind me asking? Was it January 2003? You opened the restaurant?
Yes, it was January
Yeah.
23. Yeah.
So, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you then?
hmm
Yeah.
So I was 30. Yeah, I was 38 when the doors
So,
opened.
you've had like a career already, like a significant portion of a career already underneath your belt at that point. Um,
Career with a very, very small C. Struggling in Hollywood for many years. And
Yeah. How did some of those skills, talents, abilities, and then you mentioned this a little bit already, your professional network that you've developed prior to your restaurant venture help
Mhm.
you with your restaurant venture? The skills you develop, how did those help you do what you were doing? How did your
Yeah.
professional network that you developed prior to going to France to open up your restaurant help you get to where you ultimately are at today?
I think a lot of it was I was a latchkey kid, so I had to take care of myself, and I kind of learned quickly how to survive, and also became very, very resourceful. So I could take that 100,000 and really get my money's worth. I could look at where I had to spend the money and where I could get creative. And that's where Hollywood helped a lot. I'll give a perfect example. So the first location that I thought had to be the right location fell through. That was a failure that we can talk about afterwards. That turned out to be a good thing. But the second, location we ended up with, it needed major renovations as well. And one of my investors, a French animator, came by, said, I used to be an architect. And he said, you know, this whole side of mirrors here on this one wall, we could dress that up to look like dining car windows, you know, like a diner car is like a train, and make those and put up some shades and da da da. We can take this bar, which is counter, which is completely old school French, and just dress it up Hollywood style to look like a diner with the right tiles and the right stools. That saved me tens of thousands of dollars by doing that. Where if you're not quite as resourceful, you might just keep spending, 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 you know, thinking, okay, I knew I couldn't, and I knew I had to come up with ways. And so all those different ways. And it helps, honestly, because people, one of the number one questions I get asked doing this book and on the book tours is, you went through so much. How did you keep going? You hit such a low at one point. How did you keep going? And I joke that it's like the scene from Officer and a Gentleman with Richard Gere, like saying, I've got nowhere else to go. You know, there really was nowhere else to go. So that kind of helps when you have no safety
Yeah.
net underneath you. So it might be horrifying at the time, but it actually can help you because it kept me driven and going. And I kept that vision in my head all the time. This is what I want. I can see it. I can see the customers. I can see the food. I can see the atmosphere. And that wasn't hard because I loved already coffee shops and diners that are in America. So I wanted to recreate that.